12:30 to 1:30, you can listen to Solutions for Life, a program dedicated to helping everyone discover better health. Each week, we will discuss challenges in our healthcare system, controversies, and issues that affect your life. But above all, discover solutions that will help each and every one of you. Only here on rantradionetwork.com. Good day, America. I'm Dr. Gerald Coy, and this is Solutions for Life, brought to you by the Share Foundation, a public nonprofit charitable organization dedicated to natural health by helping the public become aware of alternatives in the healthcare system. Now, today we have a great show. With us this morning is Coach Mike from the Rant radio show Kids and Sports, which brings us to our show today, Healthy Kids and Sports. This is something for every parent. Anybody that has a relative, friend, or whatever in sports or wants to take out or get involved in sports, you need to listen to today's program. Parents, if you have a concern about your kids playing sports, please stay tuned. We have Coach Mike Davis and myself, Dr. Gerald Coy, discussing the safety and welfare of your kids, making sure they enjoy sports but are kept safe from harm. But before we get into that, I've been asked to tell you a few things or talk to you a little bit about the Share Foundation. Last week, I introduced myself and gave some background as to who I am and what I've done and why I am offering this information on Rant Radio. The Share Foundation is the health division of the Coy Chiropractic Institute. It's a 501c3 public nonprofit charitable organization. We are here, and we've discussed in our introductions, kind of like that we offer this program as a program supported by the Share Foundation. What is not shared are many things that the Share Foundation does and is all involved with. One of the most important are the Share Clinics. We have a Share Clinic in Downey and offer limited facility also in Rosemead. Currently, we are working on opening up several clinics and facilities throughout the Southern California area. What the Share Clinic offers is an ability to pay program for all of those seeking alternative health care, especially chiropractic, body therapy, and nutritional assistance. These clinics offer care to everyone in the community, from those injured in accidents, sporting accidents, of which we will talk about today, work injuries, or ongoing health problems that may not have responded to other treatments. These facilities also offer no-charge consultations with our doctors for you to discuss with a professional your health problems, injuries, and concerns to establish whether or not our facilities might be of assistance to you and your family. Not only the consultations, but initial visits, including x-rays, reports, and treatment plans, are made affordable to those who are concerned about the high cost of health care and are looking for an alternative. The greatest concern we have is for children. For those low-income families who cannot afford services on Medi-Cal and using emergency rooms as their doctors, we offer free care for these children. The Share Clinic offers therapeutic services at an affordable cost, and our nutritional consultations are also at no charge. Products that might be needed to assist in your health improvement can be obtained at wholesale levels and, depending on public assistance, sometimes even lower. These clinics are available to everyone, those with insurance, those who have injuries where there are perhaps liens, or simply looking for a facility that cares about its patients and is there to take care of all you, your family, and friends. To help the Share Clinic grow and spread the services, we are seeking public and professional help in finding locations and staffing these new facilities. We need doctors to use their great talents to helping others, and we'll offer opportunities to share their skills with the various communities that we set these clinics up in. Aside from the clinics, the Share Foundation is involved with public education and awareness. The foundation has sponsored not only this show, but it's also sponsored several books. We had talked about Solutions to the American Health Crisis, which is on the market now. We have books that can be on nutrition, better understanding of the profession of chiropractic, also books on the subjects that we'll be discussing today, called Healthy Kids in Sports. This will also be made available to our listeners. We encourage you to, if you have a kid in sports, to get this book. It will help you understand and keep your kids safe. We have books to help listeners to improve their finances and be involved in helping others. Plus, many of these books are in Spanish for those friends who might want that translation. And we are airing TV and radio shows called Soluciones para la Vida, which means, just what this show is now, Solutions for Life. These are a few of the many programs and services of the Share Foundation. You can learn more about the unique organization or this unique organization by going to www.sharefoundation.com. That's www.cherfoundation.com. If you would like to be a volunteer, if you would like to assist in any of our many, many programs, help a new chiropractor by finding a place for him to practice, or just contribute, we greatly appreciate any and all support you might be willing to offer. Next month, we are having a fantastic event to celebrate this support at the Downey Columbia Memorial Space Center. We are having a fundraising event called Reaching for the Stars, especially since we're having it at a space center, and it is a celebration for life. From so many individuals who have been supporting and helping the foundation, the event in September 28th and is open to the public. You can call and contact us about attending it, or if you would like to make contributions, it can be contributions you can give for our silent auction, for our live auction. If you would like to attend, please contact Share Clinic in Downey at 562-776-1727. That's 562-776-1727. Or you can always contact Rant Radio at 855-969-7268. The Share Foundation is here to help you and your loved ones live a longer and healthier life. With our clinics offering services and with our communications and books and shows to give you greater knowledge to choose the right doctor and the right professional services to achieve that goal. Again, if there are any questions, please contact us at the Share Clinic and set up an appointment for a free consultation. That's at 562-776-1727. Or again, contact Rant Radio at 855-969-7268. We want to hear from you. Now is it's time to really get things rolling and get into some good conversation. Our guest today, again, is Coach Mike Davis from the Rant Radio show, Kids in Sports. Welcome, Mike. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Coy. I'm glad to be here. We've worked together over many years and done a little collaboration, which we'll talk about later, but you're definitely providing some services for the kids that they need. We need to be able to have their different options because not everything can be solved by an aspirin or a bandage.
That's for sure. Coach, I'd really like to, for listeners, before we get into our subject matter and everything else, can you tell them about your show and what you're offering during that time?
Sure. Kids in Sports airs every Tuesday. I'm thinking Alex's show every Tuesday from 9 to 11. It's a 2-hour show, and I bring different guests on there. Kids in Sports is about youth sports, but that goes all the way from T-ball to teen and even some college. We talk college stuff, sometimes scholarships, but even beyond that. We talk sometimes health issues. Sometimes we'll talk about coaching. We'll talk about players. I had a whole team in here a few weeks ago. We'll bring a team of kids in and let them tell the story because there's a lot more stories out there than just what you're going to see on the big news networks.
I know you've always, I know in our conversations you've always talked that sports has to be fun, especially for kids.
Oh, yes.
It's one thing to be a $100 million athlete, but it's another thing when you're in school or whatever level of school that you're having a good time and you're participating because one of the things that's so important is exercise. I'm always saying you need exercise, and it's a great way of getting it.
Teach first, win later is my motto, And that's more than just a motto. It's really something coaches need to think about. A lot of coaches at the higher levels like to get to a point where we jokingly say you can roll the ball out in the field and let the players play and we don't have to teach them. But I think at every level there needs to be some teaching. And at the younger levels, if you don't teach them properly then, that can lead to bad habits later, which might not get them picked on a team, which isn't fun. Or it might lead to an arm injury, for example, if you have a side armor. Easier to injure that arm. That's not fun.
There you go again. You start talking about that sports language, side armor type. What do you mean by that? Come on. Us uninformed people.
I'm a softball coach, so baseball and softball, side arming is a motion everybody can relate to. For the most part, correct mechanics says you come over the top with your throws. There's times where you do need to sidearm, but you see a lot of kids that'll coming up to the high school level. Where I coach at high school, they come up and they're dropping their elbow down and sidearming the ball just in their normal throws, and that repetitive motion at that angle usually leads to some sort of elbow or shoulder discomfort.
Now you're getting to more my language when you're talking about range of motion and certain injuries that come about from repetitive motions and things like that. Yeah, we see a lot of that in our clinic and helping take care of kids. And that's really, my concern. Each person has their area of expertise. I know with you want to make sure the kids have fun, that they're well trained, and they have a good time out there. With me, I just want to make sure they're safe. I want to make sure they don't get injured, and that they do things that they're going to pay a price for later. From a personal perspective, that's kind of like what has happened to you from some of your past sports, isn't it?
Sure. Heavy guys sliding too much, playing slow pitch softball for many years. 2005, I needed to replace one of my hips.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad if you were an old man like me, but you're a young man.
I'm still a young guy, yes.
Isn't that kind of early for you for that to happen? Was it really coming from the sport, do you feel?
I think most of it is. Some of it might be a natural arthritis, osteoarthritis developing. I don't know. I played a lot of sports throughout my life. I was never anybody famous or anything like that. Those that can do, those that can't coach, sometimes they say, and those that can, when they can't do, they coach. But it's, I think the sliding is what had a lot to do with it. But yes, for a number of times I was suffering for several years, and they kept saying, wait till you're older, wait till you're older, wait till you're older.
Well, this sounds like something the parents need to be listening to. And so when we come back, we'll have a lot more conversation about keeping your kids healthy.
Yep.
The Three Guys Rant
with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not The Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's, the other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69 Three Guys. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
A home is the biggest investment in most people's lives. Buying or selling should be a positive experience.
Whether you want to be a wealthy real estate investor or just trying to find a place to call home. At AJR & Associates, we focus on the client's needs.
We understand the market better than most. Let us bring the value to you and make the right choice.
AJR & Associates, making your dream house a reality. Call us today for a free consultation at 562-882-1976. Or you can log on to www.agrrealtors.com.
With a track record of great results, bringing knowledge, wisdom, and expertise to you. Hablamos español.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch.
Make your team look like pros.
with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
All right, parents, if you have kids in sports, then you need to listen to Kids in Sports with Coach Mike every Tuesday from 9 to 11 on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be talking softball and much more. Help your kids succeed. Teach first, win later. Coach Mike here. We'll see you on Tuesday in the Rant Radio Network.
The Share Foundation is the health division of the Coy Chiropractic Institute, a 501c3 509A2 public nonprofit organization dedicated to the growth and development of the natural health care services, in particular through the chiropractic profession, offering health services at the Share clinics in the greater Los Angeles area. Your donations can help in expanding these facilities across the nation, research programs, and public education, thus offering a solution to the many of the health challenges we face. Your donations are tax deductible and can be sent through our website at www.sharefoundation.com. That's www.cherfoundation.com by clicking on the donation button. Thank you. And we're back. With me today is Coach Mike Davis of the well-known, exciting, and thrilling show, Kids in Sports. Welcome again, Coach Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Coy.
You know, as we were saying, this is a program that every parent who or has children that want to play sports, or they want them to play sports, we'll have to get into that aspect too, to be sure and listen to, because that's one of the first things that we talk about in the book that we have collaborated with each other, and it's called Healthy Kids and Sports, named after your radio show. So for our listeners, this book was created from the perspective of a coach, Coach Mike, who wants the best for his players, and from a doctor who wants to make sure the players are kept safe, and which is not always what happens with coaches. Sometimes you have some bad coaches and good coaches, and we'll go into that also.
Well, that's a different word, too. There's two words we're going to throw around quite a bit, and we need to sort of clarify because especially one of those words, safe, is two different meanings between you and me. You're trying to keep them uninjured. I'd like to see them uninjured, but there's many out there today think we should sterilize our fields or have a carpet out there or something so the kids can never get hurt, and that's an impossibility in sports. And the other word is fun, and every kid has a different definition of fun. Though there are going to be those kids that are the very competitive kids that want to play their sport 24/7, that they're trying to get a scholarship because they want to, not just mom and dad wants them to. And their idea of fun might be a lot different than that kid that wants to play a little bit today and tomorrow they want to go do something else, and the day after that they want to draw. We all have a different definition of fun.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point about how far do you go to keep someone safe. I'm sure we wouldn't allow kids to go out and kick cans for anybody that's old enough to remember the concept of
kicking. I kicked them all the time there. It doesn't draw with my feet.
Yeah, but I don't know. That can may it's probably got a sharp edge on it, and probably have to sue the whoever made the can and whoever put something in the can, and then to go out in an empty field and hit a ball and have fun. Oh no! If there's a clod there, if there's a gopher hole, and let's sue whoever owns the property and the city who didn't do this or didn't. We have gotten to a little bit over. Yes, I want kids to stay safe, but I do want them to be active. And yes, any activity has a risk. Walking on the streets has a risk. But the book hits on several areas. The thing is also, when do kids get involved in sport? When we talked about we got involved in sports the moment we ran out the front or back door. But what kind of ideas do you have about when kids should be involved in the aspect of the parents and what parents see and think about?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at that. Number one is any involvement as far as sports goes. Let's throw another word in there that the parents get a little too carried with early, and that's organized sports. Your child can be starting sports as early as 2 or 3 years old, and I'm not talking about taking them down to the park and signing up for the local league. I'm talking about mom or dad or a big brother or sister can just toss a ball. Your child is going to like to toss a ball.
What, you want parents to, or somebody in the family to actually go out and play
Just toss
with
it.
their kid?
You don't even have to go out. You can do it in the backyard. You can do it in the living room. I mean, what does a 2-year-old like to do? A 2-year-old is trying to figure out life and what all this surroundings. They might throw a block, a ball. I mean, whatever it is.
There's on YouTube, you'll see a lot of things where they're tossing something and just to develop the coordination.
Yeah, that's all it is.
People don't realize how important it is for these kind of activities for the childhood development. And sports is an important part of it. I'm glad you brought up that aspect of small children. You're not going to sign them up for a sport.
Some parents would if you let them. Some parents think they should have the scholarship in hand before they hit kindergarten.
Yeah, I understand that. Back to the book we wrote it in 3 parts, and what we're talking right now is about that first part, which is wanting to play sports. Now, again, whether it's the parents wanting them to play sports or the kid who wants to play sports. The second part of the book is coaches in control, which is really that, once the child is or the kid is involved in a sporting activity, coaches take over at that time, or at least, not according to some parents, they don't want them to, but. And then the third part is really where I come in with the keeping them healthy. So that first part of the book, you just mentioned now about the age of kids and what is appropriate for kids. At what point? When do you want to encourage them? Because what do I see kids doing now? They're on their mom and dad's iPhone, unless they've already been given one, or they're on some little game thing, or they're on an iPad. Their fingers are doing very good, and their eyesight may be able to move along real well, but they're not getting the physical activity. I'm very concerned as a doctor that kids are not being encouraged to physical activity. So in an age group, how do we move them along? What is the encouragement for parents do you see?
Well, that's a tough one. The parents have to make a decision early on, I think. And I'm going to say, when I say early on, 10, 11, 12 probably, if you're giving your kid an iPhone at that age already and allowing them to just play video games or whatever, an iPhone, an iPad, tablets, whatever, can be great tools, but we go back to that word we haven't used it yet for this show, but balance. There needs to be some physical activity, and if they don't get that, they're going to have problems later. They're going to be seeing you or they're going to be seeing their doctor. Now, part of the problem is at the older ages, the kids are quitting sports because they're not having fun. Why are they not having fun? Well, maybe they started too early. Maybe the parents didn't give them that 2 or 3-year-old a chance to throw things. Maybe don't throw anything in the house, whatever. There's 100. We could be here all day just on the whys, but the kids somewhere along the way between 4 and 12 or 4 and 14, the kid decided the sports was not fun and they would rather just be on that video game.
That's sad. There's a whole another subject we can talk about. But I have a success story that came into the office.
Okay.
This is a young 15-year-old kid who loves sports now. He loves baseball. And he talks about his early youth where he was chubby. A nice way of saying he was overweight, he was fat. We have a crisis in this country with our children being overweight. They say it's improving a little bit, but to me, not fast enough. Where kids are not getting the physical activity, they're overweight. This is going to cause a lot of other health challenges. But back to this child that came in, or this young man that came in, he was talking about how he was overweight, and something clicked. I never really got why or what, but he got interested in sports. Now he's a lean, mean machine. He's a pitcher. He loves the sport. He's having fun. His health is so much better. Can he injure himself? Can there be something happen? Yes, but by and large, he's got a body that's going to be able to withstand, and he's going to be healthier because of it. And that's what I want to see more kids doing.
Well, and you touched on a couple of things there. Part of maybe what did it there, you talked about something clicked in. I wrote a book, Teaching Sports to Kids, which I'm in the process of rewriting. I wrote it originally, I think, 15 years ago. And I talk about listen to the click. Every child develops at a different age. You have a thing now that's gone on probably for about 10 or 15 years where parents are getting their daughters in baseball so they can compete with the boys, and they think this is a good idea. And it might be okay for a while because, yes, early on, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, girls are
also football.
Well, that's another. But in baseball, I'm saying because they're saying, well, softball is a girl sport, and we wanted our to compete or whatever. Yeah, the girls at the young ages have maybe developed quicker than the boys have so they can compete. But eventually, they're not going to have that opportunity. They're going to go to softball, which is a great game. And sooner or later, get them, but you got to listen to that click. In your case of your success story there, that young man had a click that went off that said, I don't like my body the way it is. Now I can either sit around the house on my iPad and stuffing more potato chips in my mouth and feeling sorry for myself, or I can get out and do something about it.
It gets in that point you talked about what is appropriate sport for individuals. Obviously, someone who's 5 foot, basketball's generally not going to be.
They're not going to be in the NBA. Probably
they're not going to be in the NBA. Doesn't mean they can't play.
They
can
have
have a great time. They can still have fun. But when we talk about all the different sports, and I know we talk about baseball, and there's wrestling, and there's gymnastics, and there's football, and there's track, and there's all these different sports, how does a parent guide their youth, the youth in their family, to making sure they're, one, enjoying it, but also that their body is prepared for that? Or how do you as a coach, with all these different sports, there's a difference in how that body has to respond.
See, this is the difficult thing, especially when they start getting into high school.
Yeah.
I've coached 10 years at the varsity level, getting ready to start my 11th year and my 3rd year at Western High School. And at every school I've been at the high school level, I get kids that come out every year, and some of them said they want to come out for softball because in PE they're just going to run. They don't want to run. What do you think you're going to do in softball? I get kids that want to come out because they want to play with their friends. I get kids that, they have various reasons for wanting to come out. Some are decent softball players, some aren't. And depending on usually I've been in smaller programs or not the superstar programs, so I need to help teach some of those kids how to play. But there's some of them that have a misguided view of what it maybe is going to be, and sometimes it came from their parents, sometimes go out for softball, and they'll show up, they've never played softball in their life, and they suddenly think they're going to make the high school team. Now, sometimes we have a way to adapt them if some have some athletic ability, but there's some that don't have a prayer, and you think, we have to be, because as a coach, I have to be concerned for their safety as well out there.
That you bring up an interesting point. What percentage of our youth are involved in sports?
What's
the maximum percentage that even could be involved in sports?
They all could be, as far as now whether they're going to make their varsity team. See, this is where part of the problem is. There's a difference between being involved in sports and being on the team, on that high school team or whatever.
There's a big difference there.
Big difference there. Doesn't mean I know of a person whose son apparently was a very good basketball player, but he did not like the competitiveness of playing on this high school team. He didn't want to be out there competing as much. He just wanted to play basketball. So that's not the kid that's going to go out for your high school team.
Well, yeah. There's the thing. What do the kids want? What do the parents want? What does the coach do? What does the doctor do?
That's a discussion we need to have.
Oh, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Mommy Talk a place where mommies,
and don't forget dads,
can share their everyday accomplishments
and challenges y mucho más. So tune in every Friday here at rantradionetwork.com from 11 through 12.
And don't forget to call in at 855-969-RANT. The number is 855-969-RANT.
You can follow us on Facebook at The Mommy Talk Show.
See you then.
Rant Radio Network is looking for you. Are you into radio, voiceovers, production, media, marketing, design? Want your own radio show? Call us at 855-969-RANT. That's 855-969-7268. Or email us at rant@rantradionetwork.com. Cheerio.
Hi, I'm Alex Alanis.
And I'm Alonso Rodriguez.
And we are Real Estate Rant. Every Wednesday morning between 10 and 11 a.m.
Here at the towers of Rant Radio Network.
No problems, just solutions. Be sure to call in with your real estate problems, rants, questions, or comments, and let us try find you a solution.
Tell us about an experience, good or bad,
and finally bury the hatchet once and for all.
In the world of real estate, find a fresh perspective. There's a lot more than meets the eye.
Help us to ensure the public trust, one rant at a time.
And we're back with Coach Mike and Healthy Kids in Sports today. We were talking about getting kids involved in sports, and Coach Mike brought up a point about whether parents want them to or kids want them to, but I also brought up a point about how many kids can really participate, and you said that all kids can be in sports. And tell me about that.
Well, we look at now how it's organized so much. And a guest that I had on my show that I have on regularly, Cindy Bristol, pointed out to me one time, when we were kids, we didn't need mom and dad to be dragging us off to the field to get hitting lessons and get involved in the league and everything else. We went outside. We either had a ball and a bat, or we had a rock and a stick, or a broom and a popsicle stick, or whatever it was, and we played. We didn't need somebody telling us how to do it. We figured out what the rules were. We might have argued a little bit over it, but we played. Now, as far as the competitive level, there's all sorts of areas. There's going to be some kids that are going to be travel ball players, there's going to be softball, there's going to be travel ball players, there's going to be rec ball players, and there's going to be kids that just want to play. So nobody says you've got to do it at whatever level. Can every kid make the varsity team at their high school? Probably not. But I think a lot of high schools, you have 40%, maybe more, that are involved in sports, whether it's varsity, JV, whatever.
And I always thought it was more like just 10%.
No.
That's good. That's really good to hear. But what about the kids that have minimum desire? They're not too sure if they want to play, and they don't have that much talent. How does a parent, because I think in terms of parents, or encourage them to at least participate in something to get that physical activity?
Well, the good thing is we're getting PE back in schools. I'm old enough, not as old as you, of course, but I'm old enough to remember when they were taking PE out of schools.
Yeah.
At some schools it might have been for money, but it was really, to be honest, I think in most places it was more about self-esteem, because there's those lawsuits are because some boy or girl was made to feel badly because their body wasn't as great as some other kid's body, and
they're overweight.
They're overweight or whatever it is.
Too short, too tall, too
and
this,
kids
too
are going to be cruel to each other sometimes. So then we took let's just take them out of it. We take the locker room situation out and everything. Well, what did that do? That had fewer kids doing sports. So now you have that kid that's overweight that isn't as good as as another kid, and mom and dad says, "Oh, that's okay. You just go ahead and sit on the couch and play your video games, and you don't have to be them." The biggest mistake, and I tell my teams this every year, the biggest mistake you can make as a player is to compare yourself to another player. It's great to emulate another player, but you're not that player. You be the best you can be. You be the best Dr. Coy you can be.
That's one of the hardest things, I think, especially for teenagers.
Yeah.
Everybody has to look the same, do the same, say the same.
You're not me, I'm not you. I can't be a chiropractor. Maybe I could try and go study. I'm not going to be you. You're not going to be me.
I've been told that one of me was more than enough. That's
I can see that.
Now, we've been talking about healthy kids in sports. This is a book that I think every parent who has a kid that's in sports or might be in sports to get. And you can order this book through the Share Foundation, or you can contact the Share Clinic at 562-776-1727 and get a copy of this fantastic book written by Coach Mike Davis and myself, Dr. Gerald Coy. How can they tell them how they can also reach you and get the book through your program?
Well, they can watch Kids in Sports, and my website is www.kidsinsports.com, KIDZ, and as in NancySports.com. I don't have the book on the site per se, but if they send me an email to CoachMike@kidsinsports.com or .com, I always get mixed up these days on some of those. But I'll be glad to get a copy of it, because I do think there's a lot of things. What do you do when you get your kid involved in anything as a parent? We ask friends,
yes,
or a coworker or somebody, what did they do? And that might be a good start, but that's not always the best thing for our kids.
Yeah, we're trying to compare sometimes our kids to other kids.
That's
so
it.
The parents can do the same bad thing that you don't want the kids to do.
That's right.
We've been talking about the first part of the book, which is getting kids into sports. The second part of the book really is Coach Mike's area. This is when coaches are in control, when you now have some stranger in control of your child, and you have to sit and watch your child play a sport. Tell us about that.
Well, that's not always easy, especially if you watch the news at all these days. Unfortunately, there's a few coaches that too often that embarrass the coaching profession out there. Most coaches are good people with good intentions. They like coaching. We don't do it for the money, most of us.
You mean you're not getting rich off it?
I'm not getting rich off of coaching. I love coaching. My daughter is finished playing softball, at least for now. I don't know if she missed every now and then. She admitted that 2 years ago. She was my JV assistant coach, and we had a faculty varsity game, and the faculty got her to pitch for them because she used to be a pitcher.
So you might have a coaching dynasty going here.
Well, someday maybe. Right now she's actually got a job, but that's a hard part for a lot of parents. Because we've gotten to this stage in our society where parents want to overprotect, and I'll say that without shame. They overprotect their kids.
I agree with you on that.
They want to micromanage maybe the whole thing. Now, some to different levels. God bless the parents. There's some coaches out there say, I don't want to deal with the parents. Well, you have to. The parents get their kids involved. But parents, once you make the decision, and hopefully you let your kid be a part of that decision, once they get involved, then step back and let the coach do their job. Let the coach be the coach. And there's going to be some coaches you're not going to like. That doesn't mean they're bad for your kid.
How would you determine, because there are, I would say, vast majority of coaches are good coaches.
Right.
But what do you do about, not that you don't like the coach, but you feel there is bad coaching? And how do you identify it? And how do you participate as a parent? And what about the athlete?
Well, I could say what we did as parents with my daughter, with Jessica, is I would, if we were going to go try out.
You just embarrassed her again.
I know she's gotten used to it over the years. That's her on the book there. Brown Day got her on the book there.
That's Jessica.
That's Jessica. But no, what we would do. She was in rec ball from the time she was 7 till her first year of 12 and under, about 11, 12 years old. Then we went to travel ball, and we would go, if we were going to try out for a team, I would see, I'd find the team on E-Teams, or that was the main site at that time. There's another one called Hey Bucket now for softball. But we would find the team. I would find out something about the team. I would call the coach. I'd say, find out a little bit about the team, about the coach, tell them a little bit about my daughter. We'd go out to their tryout or their practice. Jessica would participate in that practice or tryout. And as long as I saw something that indicated to me as a parent that, it's a good team, and I'm not talking about good as far as are they a great top-level team
not
or not.
winning every game.
They're doing thing organized,
Kids are having fun.
The kids are doing okay. Then it was up to Jessica. Then we asked her, Jess, do you want to, is this a team, if they invite you to stay, do you want to be on this team? And she had the final call. There was one team over the years that she didn't want to play for. They asked her to be on the team. And, there were a couple others, but she said, Dad, I don't want to play for that one team. And we'd ask her, what is it about? She says, I just don't feel comfortable with that team.
Did she ever have a bad coach in all the teams?
There's different levels of bad coach. Did she ever have a coach that is abusive and, dangerous in that regard? I don't think so. Okay. Some of those we never know, but.
Then in my term, I would like you to tell me what would be a bad coach from your perspective.
Well, and again, there's different levels of bad coach. There is a coach yelling a bad coach. I grew up in Arizona, and I was a big ASU fan. I still am, and a big Frank Kush fan. And Frank Kush was a tough coach. There were stories about how tough he was, and there were players that hated him. But yet, years ago when he was let go by the university, a lot of these same players, and I knew one of them from high school, that came out and they said, yeah, he was awful tough. There's time we didn't like him, but you know what? We got to the pros, and it was because of him, because of the toughness he put in. So does a yelling coach mean it's a bad coach? No, it doesn't.
Okay.
I had a whole 10-year-old all-star team in here a few weeks ago on my show, and I asked him, and I know the coach, and I said, he doesn't yell, does he? His name's Mike also. I said, Mike doesn't yell. Oh, yeah, they say he does yell. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't belittle the kids.
Now we're kind of getting to the key.
See, he does. It's what you yell. There's going to be times you're going to be mad. I tell the girls, you want to get me mad? I'll tell you how to do it. You slow down before you get to first base. You stand and watch a pop fly, expecting to be, instead of running it out. That'll get me irritated at some point.
So just because the coach yells doesn't
make him a bad coach. Now, just because the coach doesn't know as much as you think they should know doesn't make them a bad coach. We all have got to learn. Most of your youth sports are manned by volunteer coaches. And some of them, you take your 7 or 8-year-old daughter or son to a team and you get them on a team. And next thing you know, you say, Dr. Coy, do you want to coach the team? We need more coaches. You know a little bit about baseball maybe, but you think, okay, I'm going to try.
Very little.
You're going to learn. You're going to go out there and learn. I had to learn at some point.
In other words, if you want to complain, get out there and participate.
That's right. But you know what? Don't go. The worst thing and I probably made the mistake at times too, because once you're a coach, you can't turn it off. There were times we left a game or something, and I didn't like the way the coach did something. There was times I probably said, boy, your coach doesn't know what he's doing or something. And sometimes I wish I could have taken some of those back because.
You mean you made a couple mistakes?
I never make mistakes. I let my kids know there's 2 rules on my team. Number 1, the coach is always right. Rule number 2, if you see the coach is wrong, go back to rule number 1. But I have learned over the years we need to respect the coach. And the parents, you need to respect the coach, whether you like what they're doing or not. Respect that coach. It's his team or her team. They make the rules. And if you don't like it, you can leave at some point. Hopefully you'll teach your son or daughter commitment. You stay through that season. And you don't just, because they're still going to learn, even if it is a bad coach, let's say they don't know as much. That doesn't mean they're not going to learn something. They might learn how not to do something just as well as they can learn how to do it.
Yeah, I was hoping we would be able to get into some of the how you improve teams and work with teams and what your procedures are and everything else, but we're getting short on the time here. But you brought up something that's very important that I definitely want to make sure we cover, and that is when you talk about the self-esteem of your players. That, to me, is so important that I know that my kid goes out there and is going to feel good about themselves.
Now, we're going to draw a line here that might be different again for different people. I don't care. And this might sound cold, and I have changed where I'm at in this over the years. I don't necessarily care about your kid's self-esteem. I do care about how they feel about themselves, and those can be 2 different things.
Well, we'll have to discuss that right when we come back.
You're listening to What Honesty Feels Like with Christine Sawicki, that airs every Tuesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch us on rantradionetwork.com. If you're one of the most successful people in the world, I want to talk to you. I want to know how you got there, where you're going, and who you're giving back to. So call me at 855-969-7268 and check in with me, the most successful people in the world.
The Share Foundation is the health division of the Coy Chiropractic Institute, a 501c3 509A2 public nonprofit organization dedicated to the growth and development of the natural health care services, in particular through the chiropractic profession, offering health services at the Share clinics in the greater Los Angeles area. Your donations can help in expanding these facilities across the nation, research programs, and public education, thus offering a solution to the many of the health challenges we face. Your donations are tax deductible and can be sent through our website at www.sharefoundation.com. That's www.cherfoundation.com by clicking on the donation button. Thank you. And we're back with Coach Mike Davis of the Rant Radio show Kids in Sports, and we're talking about Healthy Kids in Sports, a book that Coach Mike and I have put out. Please call the radio station at 855-969-7268 and get your copy of this book. I want to finish up on that, the emotional aspect of the young athletes, and we talk about building character, and I had mentioned something about self-esteem, and you were pointing out you didn't care about something, but I really want to, I know you it didn't sound the way some people might have taken. So I want to have a chance to really clarify it and talk about character building and all.
One of the greatest things is sports builds character. This is why I believe in sports so much, because there's going to be lessons for the kids to learn out there that they aren't going to learn in a classroom. I've spoken to teachers before. I've been hired to speak to teachers. They want to know from a coach, what do you do to motivate the kids out there? You know, and for example, with grades, is what do you do when your kid gets an A? Well, we might take them to McDonald's, or we might go to Disney, or we might do something. So let's think about this. Here a kid worked 9 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever to get this A, and they might do something for him. Kid goes out on the ball field, hits a home run, they get their reward immediately. There's instant gratification, okay? Now, you mentioned self-esteem. Today, I think we live under this false pretense that if we feel good about ourselves and so our self-esteem doesn't get hurt, we're going to be so, everything's going to be hunky-dory. I coached 3 years at Newport Harbor, and we had a saying down there, one of the slogans we used the one year. It said, "A calm sea never a skillful sailor made." Our mascot was a sailor. "A calm sea never a skillful sailor made." You're not going to learn, you're not going to grow unless you challenge yourself by doing things. And sports allows our kids to do that if the parents will get out of the way and allow their kids to make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes. One of the best, me as a male coaching girls sports, it's always sort of tough because I don't care how old I get.
You mean there's a little bit of emotions?
I'll never understand the girls completely, but I understand. And Cindy Bristol, I mentioned earlier, she's great. I love having her on my show. A couple of years ago, I told her about a story we had. I won't go into it because we don't have time on it. But it was basically, one girl told another to shut up, and they kept crying to the coach about it. Boys would never do that. They'd fight a little, or the other would tell each other to shut up. Cindy said, "Mike, it's a very easy thing to explain. Boys need to play well to feel good about themselves. Girls need to feel good about themselves to play well." Okay? And it's such a simple thing. I get down there. The kids.
How true that is.
They have different things that are going to make them feel good. If you're massaging their self-esteem with a bunch of hot air, what did you really gain for them? Sooner or later, there's going to be somebody that doesn't care about their self-esteem, doesn't care if your kid's feelings are hurt, and it's going to be the biggest letdown we have. There's a thing about moving them gently forward, so that you're not putting them in a thing they're going to be. There's a difference between uncomfortable and completely overwhelmed. So let's develop them at the rate appropriate for that kid, and each kid's going to be different. But let's not be afraid to let them make mistakes and learn that that's not the end of the world because they struck out. It's not the end of the world because they didn't do something right.
Well, I hope our listeners understand the weight of the world is on the coach when it comes to sports and working with all those youths, and the difference between boys and girls, always a challenge. The third part of the book that we wrote now gets into more of my area. We're talking about the health, really the health issues that might come up, and we talk about use. And one of the first things there is the again, you're dealing with all the developmental age. You've got 13-year-olds that are 6 feet, and some of them that are 5 feet. You have some of them that hormones really haven't kicked in, and some of them they're growing beards, and there's obviously a different physical ability that comes with the change of the body and the development of the muscles. In coaching in that, how do you deal with that when you're saying, hey, I want you to be running out there, I want you to be doing this? Do you address that issue in the back of your mind, or what?
Well, there's a couple things that have to be addressed. Number one, conditioning is always important. If you don't do some conditioning, that could lead to other issues. You're not going to play as well. The other thing comes out is overuse, and that's a big topic today in youth sports, or overuse injuries. Kids that play one sport year-round, that they're not allowed to practice another sport or play another sport. My daughter, when she was a freshman in high school, she came home one day and said, Dad, I'm trying out for the volleyball team. Great. She didn't tell us she was going to do that. I guess she was at school. They were doing orientation. They said, do you want to do this? And, that was great that she did that. And the softball and the volleyball coach were friends. And they said, no, volleyball is a great sport for softball players. It strengthens other muscles. It helps. It does some
reflexes.
It does some great things. And the other part of that is age appropriate. And I have to be concerned about this.
This is why I talk about even the same age.
Even the same age. And there's a difference. I forget how it was explained, but there's a chronological age and developmental age.
Exactly.
Okay. And like I had a kid last year come out. I would love to take every kid that comes out. I really would. Because there's so many kids that maybe can't afford travel ball. I've got a nonprofit I'm doing to try to help some for that.
Oh, that's
but
wonderful.
There's every kid can't afford the private lessons. They can't afford the travel ball. Maybe they started later. I'd love to get every one of them out there, but I have to be worried that if I have this kid here playing with these kids here, and this kid throws the ball at him at the speed that they're capable of throwing, this kid misjudges that, the ball nails him in the mouth.
And what about the athlete that just got his jaw broken 2 times in the game, professional ball?
Now I'm potentially liable, so I've got to be careful about mixing those players up and doing it in such a way that this player still has a chance to learn, because maybe she could develop into a decent player. She maybe is never going to get a college scholarship. Only 1% of high school seniors do. But that doesn't mean she can't play for her high school and be proud that she's on the team. And matter of fact, I tell you a real quick story. The first high school I was coaching at was a private school. I had a player come out first year. I needed her. She wouldn't have made most teams anywhere. She couldn't hardly throw the ball from one base to the next. By the end of the season,
sounds like me.
Well, she could throw the ball much further. She actually improved quite a bit. We didn't have a JV. We only had a varsity. So every kid got their varsity letter at the end of the season. The next year I had my interest meeting. She doesn't show up. And I saw her in the hallway. I says, aren't you going to come back out again? She says, no, I got my varsity sweater, and that's all I want. I got my letter.
Oh, dear.
And that's what was important to her.
Yeah. You mentioned something, and that is in the development of the youth. When I started playing football, and I was never that good, but my father played football, so I wanted to do like my father did. And I remember even in middle school going out to play for football. And there was a coach that I was the dummy. I stood on the field so that someone could knock me over. That's about the talent I had too. Has that
changed?
That hasn't changed too much, no. But as I got older, and it was in high school then, we got our gear on and we went out and we played. There was no preparation. And I was so pleased when the schools started opening up a room and bringing in weightlifting equipment and exercise equipment to start preparing these young bodies. Because I'm also often asked, I said, would you allow your son to play football? And I said, it's not a preferred sport because it is something that's very, contact sports are very traumatic. I says, but if he was going to, he would think he's working out for the Olympics. He's going to have to prepare his body for that. Well, recently, we had discussed this at one time. I had a young man, 15 years of age, and you could see this young body beginning to mature and the muscles beginning to develop. He was in working out, trying to show off, lifting 300 pounds at a time.
And he weighs how much?
About 120, 130 pounds where is the coach, or who's allowing this kid? And it was very hard. I had sat down with this kid and I says, please understand, you go beyond the ability of your body, you can injure it. Well, why do you think he was in my office? He had a spinal injury.
But see, that kid, Dr. Coy, his coach was probably encouraging him because the kid showed before he lifted 300 pounds, he probably lifted 250. Before he lifted 250, he lifted 200. So a coach, in my mindset, not being a chiropractor or a doctor, I'm going to be thinking, yeah, this is amazing that he's able to do that. I would not think, until we had this conversation, I would not necessarily be thinking that is going to mess up his back. Now, I would think he could slip something and it hurt his back. I wouldn't think just the act of the weightlifting would do it.
When you put 300 pounds on that smaller frame, but even after our conversations, you could see this desire to say, I've got to show the other guys how much I can.
That's what he succeeded at. We don't let every one of our kids wants to feel good about themselves. They want to feel that they can accomplish something. They want to do it without mom and dad. They might appreciate mom and dad's support. They want to find out who they are in this world. And for that kid, that was lifting at 300 pounds. You asked me before about playing. When I was getting ready for high school, I lived with my aunt and uncle. My mom died when I was 10, and my dad remarried. I ended up living with my aunt and uncle for a while. I wanted to play football because every boy almost wants to play football. Our family doctor said no football till you're a junior in high school because he said there's too many, this is a medical doctor, he said there's too many permanent injuries because the bones are not developed yet. And so, but what football coach wants to see a kid come out for the first time as a junior? Not too many of them unless you're some superstar.
And how many, once you're in high school, I'm a freshman, I want to be playing with the big boys.
But now I look back where I'm at now, I'm glad that doctor said that. I ran cross country. I still have some back issues now. I was in the soda pop industry for a number of years throwing 70-pound cases of soda. I have my own back issues. I can't imagine where I'd be if I had played football.
Yeah. That's dealing with the preparation. We're running short on time, and there's so many issues about health.
You're going to have to come on my show.
Hey, is that an invitation?
We'll do that in a couple of weeks.
Okay, well, one more issue that I'd like to at least touch on if we have a chance. I'd like to talk about drugs and sports, especially with the news as it is right now. I'd like to get some feedback from you as to what you see in professional sports, and is that affecting our youth in high schools and just in attitude?
Well, sure it is, because like we talked about earlier, young players, teenagers emulate what they see. And if the message that they're given is, I need to take these drugs in order to be good enough to play, and I can play at the professional level, how good of a pat in the back is that? How good of an ego booster is that if I'm a pro athlete, right? We all see that. We all want to be there, whether it's a movie star or an athlete on the field. We all want to be, at some point in our life, we want to be there. So if the message is you need to take this drug to get there, then there is an issue with a lot of high school. Despite all the drug education, there's still a lot of those players that want to take this supplement or they want to take that because that's what's going to be the ticket to get them where they got to be.
There's two little quotes I have. One of it's monkey see, monkey do.
Right. Remember that one.
Yeah. Another thing is what you do speaks so loudly, I don't hear what you say.
Yep.
And because I'm very, very concerned, and I guess I'm a little bit more harsh when I hear the news and the athlete's been lied about it, and he is definitely, shall we say, convicted of. He's been proven to be using enhancing drugs and everything else. I want to fry him. I just want to, I'm so angry.
You've asked for it.
I've
asked for it. We've asked for it. I had an argument with one of my professors at college last year. I just finished, got a bachelor's degree in January, and I had this one art professor that I don't remember what my original statement was, but she comes back, you can't tell me that a pro athlete is more important than a teacher. I said I would never say that. But she did not understand the concept that I've learned as a speaker or a pro athlete knows. It's called butts in seats. Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, Manny Ramirez, all these guys get paid what they get paid because they put butts in seats. The people come to the ballpark to see them play. And as long as the people are willing to do that and they keep paying for it, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep that job.
Well, all I can say is, Coach, I will see you on your show so we can continue
We
this
will continue.
conversation.
Yes, sir. Thank
Until
you.
next week, eat right, exercise, reduce your stress, and be healthy. Thank you, Coach Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Coy.
This show was previously recorded.